This is the first of a series of some videos I'm going to do for y'all. We're going to be taking a look at the Casio Prizm. It's a color grapher. It's a pretty fantastic tool. It's just going to take a little while to get used to. First of all, you're going to notice that it looks completely different than the older TIs. We have icons. It's basically something, well, you've kind of used it on your iPads and even on your smartphone. They have a lot of these things. And we have different types of options here, from run matrix down here to financial, and we can even scroll down to some more. Equations, we're not going to worry about a lot of this. We'll be looking to the geometry in the near future. But primarily we're going to be working in run matrix, equations, and graphs. We may do some recursions and some tables and some other activities later on. But those three things, run matrix, graphs, and equations, is going to be the bulk of your work, because we're going to still be doing quite a bit of algebra. We'll eventually get to the geometry room, but that's more advanced work there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the keys first. Here we have our F1 through F6, so it's sort of like soft keys. They tell us when I pull up run matrix, you're going to see some different sets of options that we can use these for. Right above it has trace, zoom, view window, sketch, G-solve, that's graph, solve a graph, and graph the table options. We won't play with those too much today either. Down here we have some recognizable keys, shift, setup. So let's go ahead and take a look at the shift and setup menu. Setup is just basically how your calculator is going to work. We're going to work in the math mode, computational, our fraction result. We're going to have a number over a number. This can be improper fractions like 4/3. That is a lot of how we would do our algebra. In geometry, we tend to convert it to decimals, but improper fractions are much easier. Right here, we have mixed numbers. We don't do a lot of that in our courses. We have a function type y equal to, that's our dependent variable. We won't do derivatives. Angles, we're going to work in degrees. If you see it in radians, let's go ahead and get it to degree mode. We're not going to cover radians that much this year, and if we get ahead of ourselves and have some extra time, I would love to cover radians. That's a very important topic. Complex mode, real, we're going to work in the real number system. In Algebra 2, you're going to learn some other options. And our display and so on. We don't have to worry too much about that. This exit key I just hit is like your back button. It's your escape button. It gets you back to something normal. So here we are in run matrix. Here's the soft keys I was talking about. We have jump to, delete. So if I have a bunch of stuff here I want to delete. I have matrices. We're not going to play with matrices. You'll do that in Algebra 2. And we have some math options. Again, matrices, the logarithms, absolute value, some calculus functions, and some summation, so on. We're not going to worry about that, this menu at all. You may do some absolute value, but honestly we're not going to do much. If you're going to go back, hit the exit button. So we're not going to worry too much about these. This is just simply where I do a lot of my arithmetic. 6 times 3 gives me 18. And I, of course, can change the menu if I wanted to whatever decimal place I wanted. I just have it to the hundredths right now. Going on with our options here, we have an alpha key right here. You notice that it's kind of in a pinkish type color. And here's our A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way through here. We're going to actually, maybe later in the year, use a lot of this alpha function. A lot of cool stuff. Options, we're going to skip that for now. X squared just says, okay, we're going to work something in like x squared or whatever. So fairly easy key. This is my key if I want to raise it to a different power, 5 to the 3rd power, so on. And exit doesn't really do too much here. Let's go ahead and delete all this. I could delete a line or delete all. I may be going too fast for you, but you can always pause and relook. This is when we're doing some algebra stuff. This is basically your x. So if I want to put an x minus 5 equation, but we're not going to do that in the run matrix thing. We'll just hit exit and clear that. Log, algebra 2, natural log, algebra 2, and you can see 10 to the x and e to the x. We may use that. You did that in algebra. Here is sine, cosine, and tangent, and their inverse functions. inverse of sine, inverse of cosine, and the inverse of tangent, all off the shift key. We will be doing this year. We're going to talk about some of our trig functions. This is an awesome key right here. This is nothing more than our fractions. I tab over to get below. And right next to it is called fraction decimal key. I could convert that to a fraction or a decimal. And it's pretty neat. I can even enter something and convert a decimal to a fraction. Very nice tool. Now remember my menu setup, I had improper fractions basically. Parentheses, we're going to be using those. Comma, you're going to need that in some of your work. And then of course you have your numbers, your arithmetic operations, your inverse right here, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, and here's your opposite sign, your negative sign. Right down here, I want to point out is your equal sign. You're going to need that in equations, and your pi sign. You're going to need that all year long. So I didn't mean to do that. We'll just hit exit. That clears it. You have the shift key for your pi. All right. And we will be working in terms of pi in just about all the work that we do. Now let's just go ahead and run something a little more complex. Let's just say I'm going to use the distance formula, and I have my coordinates already, and I'm going to do the square root of the difference of my x's. I'm going to use parentheses. 6, I'm just making these numbers up as I go. I go ahead and raise that to the second power, tab over to get my plus sign. Then I'm going to set in the difference of my y's. I'm going to put -3 minus 8. If you had a negative number, it'll work just fine. And put that squared. There's my distance formula. I hit enter, and there's my radical answer. It will simplify radicals for you. Like for instance, let's go ahead and take a look at the radical 60. In my algebra class, I was pretty insistent that you simplify all radicals. This calculator does it for you. It is pretty fantastic. It does a lot of cool things. Depending on your algebra teacher, you probably saw some of this. So you can take the third root of 27 and you get 3. Very nice tools. It even works in the fraction mode. Let's just say we do 27 and we want to raise it to a power 1/3. I will also get 3 because that's just another way of writing the cube root of 27. You may not have seen that depending on your algebra experience. Alright, so that is the basic rundown of the Casio calculator. That was the run matrix. My next video I'm going to talk about equations and solving quadratics and systems of equations as well. There are other online videos. You just type in YouTube or Google Casio, and there will be a lot of online help for you on these things. Much better than what I'm doing here because this was just a quick rundown.